Between Sundays.
Between Sundays.
In the middle of March for us.
Oh, yeah. We're finally going to have a spring week weather-wise. It'll be really nice.
So nice.
What's the weather supposed to be like this week? Let's look it up.
Yesterday, the moon was intense.
Really?
All day long and...
Outside?
Full moon at night. Yeah.
Look at this. Today's coldest. Next week, or tomorrow, 67, then 70, 68, 67, 67, 69, 80 next Monday.
More.
Oh, yeah. 82, 77. Oh,
more mild.
That's lovely.
It's always mild. More mild, less mild.
Mm-hmm. That'd be pleasant.
It's always pleasant.
Yeah, today's going to be the coldest day this week. And a little windy. So we're between Sundays, and we have beautiful weather for the first time, so they can finish our roof here at the church.
It's coming. It's coming along. Sanctuary is almost done.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
It's beautiful.
Okay, what are we starting with today, Joel?
I don't know.
Okay,
What'd you have for breakfast?
Nothing yet. I had coffee. So
Do you ever have cereal?
Yeah, so sometimes my boys, Brienne will take them to like Trader Joe's, and they'll get like JoJo's or JoJo cereal or whatever, which is just chocolate, peanut butter ridiculousness. And I'll cave, and I'll have some on a Saturday, and then I will hurt because of the sugar content.
Oh, and milk.
No, we don't have milk in our house. We have just the almond milk.
Just almond milk.
Yeah.
Well, the question of the morning is cereal a soup? And you have to defend your position.
Fascinating. Is cereal a soup? Kaylee, is cereal a soup? Kaylee's behind the camera. You think so? You can have a cold soup?
Actually, no. Because it's not really like spices or anything.
I think that the...
A
gazpacho?
Yeah, that's a cold soup.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Gazpacho is a cold soup.
So I would... Okay, I would say no. Because I think that soup requires a level of preparation beyond 2 ingredients. And I'm not going to say the ingredients of the cereal. Like, I think that it requires melding.
Something coming together.
Because it could be cold, it could be hot. Broth, well, because they've worked on making the broth. You would say broth is soup. It's not soup.
It needs to have other components.
It's not just chicken broth. You also have to add stuff to it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it could be hot or cold.
Yes.
But you have to do something that necessitates more than just 1 or 2 primary ingredients.
So what if you put ramen, like the $1.50 ramen, in hot water? Is that soup?
Oh,
not the ramen, but the noodles, like that you have in college when you're.
Yeah, you're talking about cup noodle, or you're talking about top ramen.
Or the top ramen.
That soup. Oh,
because if that's soup,
well, it's kind of hard. Yeah, I mean, well, shoot.
It's just noodles and water, and cereal is just
no, but it's 3. Milk. It's noodles, it's
and
seasoning, and it's water. So I think that it has to be at least more than 2 ingredients.
Okay, so like when I was growing up, my mom would put little sugar on the Raisin Bran with the milk. That was before we were all sugar conscious.
Now we're in a world of, I mean, you have a starch, you have carbs, and then you have liquid.
Soup.
Oh, geez.
Weird question.
Well, here's the crazy question: is tomato soup?
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
They call it tomato soup. Yeah. So
I mean, Campbell's, you just pour it in.
It is. That's true. Honestly, I've seen people make tomato soup, and it is hard.
Tomato soup's a big deal.
Like if you actually make, you have to
roast the tomatoes.
You have to cook it down. Add a whole bunch. Then you got to add that thing. You got to yeah. Or you could just blitz it in like a Vitamix.
Yeah, I've done that before. If you blitz it in a Vitamix for long enough, it gets warm.
Because of the kinetic energy?
Yeah, you just put it in for like 5 minutes, and you actually end up with warm soup. It's good if you're raw. Like if I went through a raw vegan phase, and that works because you're not cooking it. Is that when you
tormented your kids? Is that when you guys had to go vegan too, Kaylee?
Yeah, but
the whole family went.
Oh, you did? But is that
we dehydrated kale? We sprouted oats.
You're sprouting oats. That's awful. Is that the time when you guys? Your dad got obsessed with that restaurant, and then like you showed up, and it was like a pork restaurant, and he was a vegan guy.
No, it was a.
Okay, tell the story of this.
He was an intense vegan.
Well, hold on. You guys chose to be vegan because you read this guy's cookbook or something, right?
And his arguments. How to be raw. I mean, I'm not that much of a follower in those things, but it was interesting.
You enough to make your whole family.
No, we were experimenting. You know, when people come to LA, they start detoxing, or they're going to do something.
Yeah, sure.
Like back in the day, that you have to kind of buy into into
it.
that
You
for a
juice
minute.
it.
You juice or you detox, or we decided let's go raw because something happens. Like, see, this sounds real nutty, but like back in the day,
You're just proving that you took this really serious.
no,
by
but
the
like
way.
if a chickpea sprouts, that's the moment the energy is coming out of the chickpea. So if you eat it, you know, I don't believe these things.
you eat it, then what? You get its energy.
Yes.
Oh, we're dealing with
That's-
we're
that's
doing
this-
like new agey stuff.
No,
okay,
that's not
got
true,
it.
and I don't believe it. But
Yeah, you're eating the energy.
we
Okay.
the reason why is because this particular
Next one,
restaurant
we'll be,
had
like, rubbing
vegan.
our chakra crystals together.
No, this vegan restaurant had the best vegan ice cream and it was good for you. It was made out of other stuff like nuts and other things.
Because nuts definitely have
Way
you can-
better for you.
You can milk a nut. Yeah, sure.
So we enjoyed the ice cream, and then we just tried to do it because it would also be a good way to just experiment. But then
the guru.
one night we went to
your
an
shaman chakra guy.
amazing restaurant, and he had ordered a big pork chop with his family.
So this guy was such a hypocrite.
Yeah.
He was the pastor that says you can't drink because that's godless, and then you find him at a cocktail bar ordering.
Yes.
So your whole life, you just deconstructed right there.
I deconstructed from the raw
From
veganism.
veganism,
I had
yeah.
to sell the dehydrator on Facebook Marketplace.
That's a good conversation to have. Of like that's a primary reason why people I actually think deconstruct in general is like they don't have any legitimate like faith foundational markings of Christianity as much as when I hear these stories of deconstruction so much, and it's always like, well, that person was such a hypocrite.
Yeah.
And then, oh, well, I was taught these terrible things as a kid, therefore. And it's like, well, you're deconstructing something that most well-thought Orthodox evangelicals don't even believe.
Yeah.
Like, congratulations. Like, you no longer believe that dinosaurs roamed the earth when humans did 4,000 years ago. Great. I don't know a single scholar that believes that. Like, sorry. I just think it's like, I'm not vegan anymore because dude bro ate pork chops. It's like, I don't believe in Jesus anymore because that person's terrible. Like,
Right. We
okay.
stopped being raw vegan because it's ridiculously hard and it wasn't delicious, and I love steak.
Yeah.
We're talking like a month.
Oh, that's a long time.
Of
I
being
wouldn't last.
vegan?
I wouldn't last a month, dude. There's no way. My shakes are vegan. Actually, okay, so that would be my determiner. If I had Huel shakes and meals, like I just decided to do that for a month, I'd be okay because that stuff has been figured out. It tastes good.
Yeah.
Like
This was raw though. Nothing could be heated above a certain temperature. That's why you
the
have to heat
dumbest
things in
thing
the
I've
blend
ever
tech.
heard of. That's what raw means.
Yeah.
Is that what raw like? Okay, what's all raw? What are things that are raw typically in the world? Like that they market as raw. Milk. What else? Raw nuts. So they
Like-
don't, you can't heat them. You cannot roast. You just
Not
got
roasted.
You just got to eat these
Completely
horrible,
raw.
uncooked.
And you want, if you want
Almond.
chips or something, you have to dehydrate them. You don't cook them. You can't bake it.
What's
You
the
can't get
logic
above
behind
like
this?
100 and some degrees.
What is the logic behind raw? That
don't
the
know.
sun can't heat something up that much?
I think you lose the. What is it? You lose the.
Kaylee's just laughing. This is so dumb.
What did you?
Who
What do you
does
lose
this?
if you heat it? You lose like
You-
some of the nutrient.
I don't believe any of what's being said. By the way,
No, we don't. I don't. I'm not
nutrition
into.
while
I'm
you
not
eat.
raw vegan. I love like an incredible.
This just feels like a bunch
Enchiladas.
of Houdini magic going on here.
But you want that.
You
want,
can have sushi. No, but you're vegan. Oh,
No, you can't have sushi.
you can't have rice because you can't
rice.
cook. Well, I guess you could steep rice. Like you could just let it sit in water at 100 degrees.
Yep.
The worst rice on.
You can make a
earth.
really good like
super starchy.
fake chicken tortilla soup in the blend tech or Vitamix and just spin it and let it heat up. It gets warm. Cheesecake.
You can't
like
have
with-
cheesecake. You have to bake cheesecake.
No, you make raw. That's
Raw
Kaylee every year
cheesecake.
for her birthday. She and my son.
So if you're
would want-
lactose, you die.
no, because you make a raw cheesecake out of cashew cream cheese,
Wow.
Brazil nuts, dates,
Oh, so what are we doing?
raspberries,
What are we doing?
cacao.
Oh my gosh, you can't. Okay, so if you're lactose, okay, you could do all this vegan nonsense. That sounds horrible.
Yeah, I mean it was interesting.
So I couldn't even have my Huel because all that's probably been heated at some point.
It has to be raw. Yeah, it has to say it's raw, or you have to be
Yeah.
really responsible and just live with a dehydrator and a Vitamix.
And a lot
If
of toilet
anyone
paper.
listening or watching is,
A lot of toilet paper.
then give me a lot of grace because I was never that appropriate.
Did you like lose weight and get healthy?
I felt really vibrant.
That's super subjective. You know who else feels super vibrant? People who are at a bar having a great time on St. Patrick's Day, watching turtle races down the road.
We were trying.
Vibrant.
We were trying. We just thought we'd try.
Wow. Could you imagine if I told my boys that we were going to go raw vegan for a month?
Yeah.
Imagine Asher, the boy who doesn't stop eating.
No. Yeah.
I'd have mutiny on my hands. My boys would sneak and they would find.
Yes. We had to get rid of stuff in our house.
My gosh,
but we just did this as like a 1 month experiment. 10
Did you
years
also
ago.
do this when you got when you cleaned out your closet and it was super cool to only go pastels and like 3 t-shirts and you like John Mark Homered it and you're like, I'm not doing anything.
No.
And
in high school, I went through a phase where I only wore blue and black and I showed no emotions.
Well, that was because you were goth.
It was like pre-goth. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. What?
No, it was goth.
No, it was goth. You didn't call it goth because you were in.
We called it weirdo.
Yeah, but you were into metal. You were into The Cure.
Yeah.
That was like a OG because grunge
OG.
was also a thing too. So you were just the antithesis of grunge.
Yeah.
You were like you were not Midwest though, so I don't know what you'd call that. What was that? It wasn't emo. It was pre-emo.
Pre-emo.
Yeah. That's funny. I had a goth phase for like I had an
You had
emo.
a goth.
I had
You
an
had an
emo
emo
phase. I
phase.
didn't do goth. Goth was too weird.
No, we could see.
Goths
if Kaylee
were
could
like
put a
the
photo
kids
of
who
you.
were like that everybody worried that they like ate bats for lunch and stuff. You know what I mean? Like in our high school, we had a couple gothies, and like also at the time, that was when school shootings were like a thing.
Oh yeah, because you were in Colorado too.
So Columbine kids were gothies. So then it was like, okay, goths. If their pants were way too baggy and had a bunch of chains, and then they like loved to wear like spikes, then it was and they had like the gauge. That was like schools were really nervous about people like that. But if you wore chick pants, like girl pants, and you just wore black and you had a swoop on your head, emo was fine.
That was emo. Okay.
Yeah, that was emo. Like I listened to like Under Oath and like all the bands that like screamed and sung at the same time about their depression, and like Linkin Park was the precursor to all that. So
was that like early 2000s?
Yes. No, not yeah. So 2000, probably 2004 to 2007 would have been the 3-year. That was it was called the scene. Like if you were a scene kid, then you were in like the hardcore underground emo scene.
Yeah.
Long hair. Every guy I knew had super long hair, wore tight pants.
That was post Nirvana.
Well, yeah, because it was post grunge. Yeah, Nirvana was 90s, and that was I knew a bunch of guys who were influenced by Nirvana, but no, Nirvana was also super raw. Like the music was raw, and like the scene that I was in, everybody was using backing tracks, and it was epic sounds and like the production and all that. But then there was a whole look.
If you were stuck, if you could be stuck in a decade, would it be 2000, 2010?
No, I mean I was a high schooler, so that'd be kind of lame.
Yeah.
I liked it. It was a fun scene for sure.
Yeah.
Like playing with a bunch of bands and touring and all that stuff was pretty cool.
You had, like,
Touring being
DSL
relative,
internet.
we didn't go like that far, but
Dial-up was moving away. You had some.
no, we still had dial-up at that point. I think no, because MySpace was a thing, and so you actually could just get on the internet. I think at that point that was like when you had like 10 megabyte. It was like decent.
Nice.
Internet. It was like people also like if you had a rich home in the neighborhood, they had the satellite and they had satellite internet.
Oh.
So that was like a thing, I guess. But MySpace was legit because besides the top 10 or the top 8 friends list, that was like causing mutiny in our school. Like a girlfriend.
Oh, I remember
like
that.
didn't have her boyfriend as in the top 4, but like dropped him.
Oh.
And like you were like, oh, like
MySpace.
yeah, that was very controversial. If anybody remembers MySpace top 8s or top 10s, you know if you know. One of my best friends moved me on it, and I remember just being so distraught. I think he put like his sister above me or something, and I was like, oh, how dare you?
2000s drama.
Man, it's no
Early
worse than
2000s.
today's drama.
No, just get unfollowed.
TikTok
It's
and
huge deal.
the dumbness. Well, and also the kids these days, like all the studies are coming out now that they're just unbelievably depressed and disconnected and socially not well, which is really sad. Brienne actually did a presentation last week with Ed Stetzer, who's like a big time church consultant and statistician and missiologist, and it was just like the anxiety, the depression, the social anxiety is like off the charts with this generation. However, they are the most spiritually inquisitive and open generation since pre-boomers.
Whoa.
Yep.
That's encouraging.
Yep. And more, young men are interested in Jesus than ever since it's ever been studied in 150 years of generational studies. Well, stats are weird. They don't tell you motive. They just give you what's happening. It's all reflective. So they don't forecast. They just look back. So, but it only happened in the last 2 years. So they're saying something with COVID.
Okay.
Something about COVID just obliterated male opposition to systemic things. So like pre-COVID, men were the very first to be anti-large establishment, large thinking, large all that. And for some strange reason, whether it was the lockdowns or whether it was the political turmoil. I'm reading a book right now by Nancy Pearcey. What's her name? I totally blanked on her name. Anyways, it's called it's about masculinity, Christian masculinity and stuff. And she's an apologist and a researcher. And her argument is, that pre-pandemic, there was a war against men in general. Culturally, it was just men are a serious problem. Eradicate manlyhood. And this was all over the place. And in particular, this was in Christianity. And she pulls up all these studies of just like that, like a certain percentage every year of churches' sermon series were basically about how bad men are. And like implicitly or explicitly, depending on what movement you were a part of. And how toxic men are into this environment or into marriage. And so she like looks at all these studies of like, this was the narrative. And then she goes into the deep sociological studies of like, is any of this even true? Like these are a lot of assumptions culture's making on manhood. And then like come to find out, nope, like sociologically, none of that's true in any way, shape, or form. Like none of the data is saying anything. Because like the big punching bag of the world for the last 10 years has been conservative men. Like let's just beat the living junk out of conservative men because they're the problem with they're the problem with racism. They're the problem with the corrupt government. They're the problem with religious institutions. Conservative men, blah, 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 right? And like people bought that. Like I remember hearing pastors talk about how the divorce rate is it's just as bad in culture as it is in conservative churches because these men and and adultery rates and all these things. And so they just lambasted men for this. And then come to find out, like an overwhelming amount of data has proven that conservative men, like in the 80 percentile, have the most vibrant marriages, the most happy spouses, the most self-confident children, the most profitable businesses, the most equitable understanding of human flourishing, like conservative, evangelical, Bible-loving, spirit-filled men create human flourishing, not the other way around, which is and it's not the narrative that you hear publicly. So the way that she writes it in her book is that it is very possible that like culture just it broke during COVID, like because all of that was a momentum towards we're done with men. We need to almost like we need to neuter the toxic masculine culture, because like the Me Too movement was like presenting this idea that every man is just a terrible man in waiting. Like if you give him enough time, he's going to be a horrible, and I think that because culture quite literally almost like shattered itself for those 2 years, it's almost like there was no real cultural foundation anymore. It broke. And so I think the argument is that young men finally decided, because they can finally be themselves again, like screw this, we need to discover ourselves. Now with that though has come the increase of other odd cultural phenomena. It's not just that men are also very interested in Christianity. It's also that men are also very interested in a whole bunch of other organized religious activities. Like young men are very open to super spiritual encounters in general, which means that they're interested in Buddhist practices and Hinduism and Islam and Judaism. They're interested in high engagement biohacking to make themselves better. You know, this is why like the Joe Rogans of the world and all, and they're Dr. Andrew, whatever his name is, he's a neurologist. Like they're all about bettering themselves. But it's coming out in 1,000 different ways. One of them happens to be an increased awareness of, like Ed Stetzer, when we were at the presentation, he said, if you can get the men, then they'll be all in. So like, if we can go get them as Christians and help them convert, they'll be super faithful to Christianity. But if somebody else beats you to the punch, then they'll be super into whatever the other thing is as well. Yeah,
and that's probably been a challenge because of the churches. Many would say become so feminized.
Yeah, 60% of every church is women. 60 or 70%.
Even a lot of the worship songs. There's so much that kind of
we're smooching up on Jesus a lot in these worship songs, right? Yeah, like to the point where it's like, how many of these songs? Actually, Brianna and I were joking. She played a song the other day in the car, and I said, "Is this a girl's love letter to her boyfriend or to Jesus?" And she looked at me and she laughed, and then she went, "You need to stop it." And I was like, "But babe, like, I don't know who she's singing to right now."
Wow.
Wrap me in your arms, hold me close and tender. And I was like, "This is the verse of." I believe Jesus can wrap me in his arms, and I do believe that he will hold me close and tender. Kinda. Just the way I even describe that, though, it's weird as a guy. I'm like, I don't know. Anyways, why are we talking about this?
Vegan?
Why is raw honey? If raw, you can't have raw honey because it's not vegan.
Why?
Don't vegans not do honey because of bees? Because of bees?
I don't know. That's outside my experience.
Oh, yo, bro.
You can use
maybe
dates.
that's a controversy within the vegan community. Maybe like you can enslave bees for your eating pleasure, but you can't.
I don't
have
know.
Milk?
You can't do milk. So we only sweeten things with dates, or
I have raw honey in my pantry right now. Maybe raw doesn't mean
that doesn't
vegan.
mean raw. It means it's just honey. I don't know.
I don't know about that, bro.
We use dates, and then what else do we use to sweeten?
I do like dates.
Agave is straight out of agave.
Well, that's a plant,
right?
Yeah, so that's fine.
Yeah. I don't think that's what got us into this, though. We were talking about.
What did we talk about?
Social media, and the demasculinization of boys.
Really? That's where we started with this conversation?
I think so. You know, LA, this is kind of random, but your kids, like LAUSD has a cell phone ban now. Mm-hmm. It's only been like a month.
Yep.
Has that affected your kids?
Well, but they don't have phones.
Okay.
So we don't deal with that.
Yeah.
And we're an anti-social media family. Like, I don't have social media. Brienne doesn't have social media. So kind of weird in that sense. Like, I've never met someone who says they're happier because they have Instagram.
Oh.
Like, you learn way too much about other people. They learn way too much. My life is also private. I just don't want people to know much about my life. Like, you'll learn, if you come to our church, you'll learn about my life. I'm very open on stage.
I have an Instagram, but I have 2 photos.
Yeah.
And they were of.
But you follow people and you watch people. Could you say, what? Would you be able to say that the amount that you learn about people increases your human flourishing? Because of Instagram. Yeah, see, it's fun. Like, I get why people want to scroll and watch stuff.
It's helped me as a person who likes to cook.
Well, so that's, in my world, that's different because, like, I have YouTube, whatever it's called, Reels, Shorts, but everybody I follow is like a cook person.
I mean, the people on my Instagram feed are.
So your algorithm isn't a bunch of nonsense.
No, it's like
different
chefs.
But you can, though, still go spying and looking and watching on people.
I mean, I could.
And you do. Come on now. Everybody on Instagram does that. They go look up old friends, or they go look up a thing, or they're curious about it.
I'm just looking for recipes.
Yeah. But that's the nice thing about YouTube is I have no ability to even go look at somebody, like, because there is no one puts their personal stuff on YouTube. Because it's like no one's gonna watch that. It's not. Right. It's not a social media platform. It's just more of like it's like a media platform than a social media platform. And I think once TikTok was banned for like the 24 hours that it was, a lot of those creators from TikTok started putting stuff on YouTube in general.
They have to, because that's their living. Many of them.
Yeah, if TikTok goes away, you got to figure something else out. But anyways, yeah. So our boys know they don't have social media. They don't have phones. So,
nice.
Yeah.
That's good. Good. I don't know. It's probably very controversial. I don't know how parents call their kids or things like that, but
there's a lot of dumb phones out there though nowadays.
So good for kids not to be able to do that in ways at a young age.
Yeah, I mean, all the data is out there. Social media is very, very, very bad for kids' brains. Yeah. That's just, we now know.
Yeah.
Even Mark Zuckerberg is like openly dialoguing about how bad his apps are for developing brains. And boys don't stop developing their brains till they're 25. So it's like, what do you do with that? Like, yeah, you have a bunch of young people that they're just not not intellectually, they're not neurologically ready for something that can cause so much anxiety and so much insecurity and all that. So, and weird, the stuff that's online is like weird.
Yeah.
Weird. So.
Oh, well.
Yeah. So no, it doesn't really affect us. So I'm assuming that some of my boys' friends are frustrated that they can't have social media on their phones, because I know that some kids do bring their phones to school. And my boys are very jealous, but whatever. Wow. They can deal with that. So
what'd you do this weekend besides church?
We went to. It wasn't this weekend. It was Thursday and Friday, but we went to a missions conference banquet up in Fresno.
Nice.
At Mountain View Church in Fresno. Some of our friends and mentors. Every year they do a big conference in the fall.
Just all about missions or what?
All about missions. And then every year in the spring, they do a big fundraising banquet.
Okay.
All about missions. So both opportunities for them to fundraise, but they're a little different. One's to inspire and then one's to activate. So the inspirational one is the conference. Come hear what's going on, hear from a gajillion different worship or ministries.
So they bring in missionaries.
So they do it for both. The conference in the fall has a lot of missionaries, and then they also bring in like national leaders from missions movements, and then there's a lot of it's a typical conference: worship sessions, breakouts, keynote speakers, and then a bunch of like let's go. And then in the fall they fly out key missional leaders, but the emphasis is on like you're at a table and there's presentations, and then there's like a big ask, like they're trying to raise well over $1 million for missions. Wow. So that's where we were. Hanging out, meeting some missionaries, and
nice. Is there a region most of them are from, or
no,
all over the world?
All over the world.
Wow.
Yeah. So I met a guy he's with Live Dead, which is the assemblies, the AG, Assemblies of God, international church planting and humanitarian arm of their missions organization. So it's like one of the largest spirit-filled ministries, missions agencies in the world that are not a sub. They're not they are not like your YWAMs
like
or
a
your
parachurch.
Correct. They are hubbed within the denomination, church supported, internationally accountable. Yep. And it's called Live Dead. Okay. And so we hung out with one of the couples that runs all of India. Wow. And they do this unbelievable. I don't think I told you about this. Oh my gosh. So it's always weird when you go to a missions conference. There's people from all over the world. Literally, you're meeting someone that they have to turn the cameras off for because they're in a closed country, and they're persecuted, and they have the country thinks that they're a teacher, but they're actually like a covert church planter. Yeah. So that's always and they've gotten beaten and almost killed or potentially lost family. So there's always that person. Which is always like the person who's like on stage and they say like, it is my great delight to suffer in the name of Jesus. And they have like marks on their face and you're like, oh my gosh.
Please don't pray for us to not be persecuted.
Correct.
Because that's how we thrive.
We thrive when there's blood.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my gosh. And they're always like, yeah, they have so much faith. So, anyway, so every missions conference has those people. Every missions conference has like your national leadership.
Oh, you were going to talk about the India.
Yeah. So
okay.
So you have all these people, and then there's the people that like you can't quite figure out what they do because they're clearly being covert. It's not because they're in Afghanistan, and they might literally get their head cut off the next week, but they're still like the country that they're in, there's some reservation and there's some like, this might not go well for us socially if this thing gets, anyways.
Social hostility.
And they're all over the map. So they're everywhere in every single country on the planet. So we're having dinner. So we get there and they have all these presentations and then there's a big fundraising ask for everybody there. And so like these wealthy people are giving their, like someone gave $100,000 on the spot to a church plant that needed a building. So they just bought the building for them and stuff. Wow. But I'm sitting next to this couple and they're like, oh yeah, we do some work in India, blah, blah, blah. And so the funny thing about when you meet these people internationally is you also don't know like what efficacy like their ministry is doing. Cause like every missionary wants money. But you're never really quite sure if they're like really strategic business entrepreneurs or if they're just like hardcore, like one-on-one evangelists. So this couple we met in India, they were like, yeah, we do like coffee shops and we kind of use that as like a hub. And so I'm on the west side of Los Angeles. I'm a white dude. I meet a couple who says we do coffee shops in India and we're in a mountainous region for one of our locations. My first thought was, this is going to be a tiny little hut, Indian.
With some chai or something.
Yeah, because what else are you going to think? Like, you're like, oh, India. I'm thinking rural because they said mountainous region. And I know that they make a lot of coffee in India. So I was like, oh, okay, so like maybe you're like a land or... And so I was like, oh, that's super cool. I was like, yeah, like we have a coffee shop too. And it's like one of the busiest on the west side of LA. And they're like, oh, yeah, like, wow, that's so cool. And man, like, I wish we could get there someday. But we've just got we've got 3 locations, really humble. And I was like, that's super cool. I was like, how many people are you employing like for this thing? And they're like, well, we used to run like this orphanage and we had 25 kids in that and they've all grown up and now they're running their own businesses and they pay rent and renovating all the homes that we own. And I was just like, okay, hold on a second. What is happening in this conversation? And I'm like, do you like, is there anything like public about your coffee shop at all? And they're like, oh yeah. And like, no, one of the kids that we raised up, he runs all of our Instagram and all of our social media and really makes an influence in Gen Z. And I was like, okay, I'm super confused. And I was like, so can you help explain to me what your first location is like? And they're like, well, because like they were being humble, and then you finally realize this is much bigger than I thought it was.
It might be huge.
And they were like, well, so back in like the 80s and the 90s, Indians, something happened politically and economically, and people started gaining a lot of wealth in India. So it no longer was like the India of old. And I don't know if that was because of the split from Britain and different things, but when they showed up, Indians from major populated cities like Los Angeles became middle upper class, like legitimate middle upper, like world capital GDP. If you're middle upper class in those big cities, you're also going to be middle upper. Like we're talking like making $150,000 a year kind of thing. Well, what do people that are in major metropolitan areas, what do they love to do when they get wealth? Well, they buy second homes in beautiful rural mountainous regions. So what ends up happening when the wealthy people go for their weekend vacation away to their summer home, their weekend home, well, they have their little vacation spots. Well, that's one of their coffee shops. So so I'm like, can you show me a picture of it? It's 20,000 square feet.
Oh.
Brand new building. Wow. More immaculate than any building in all of West Los Angeles. Wow. We're talking like everything architecturally that this city is kind of going, that like farmhouse cool, but also black and white and edgy and big wind. Yeah. The whole thing.
Wow.
40 employees. And they're and they have 3 locations and they're launching one in the largest city centered area of, there's this one city in India where all the Hindus do their 24 hours of burning dead bodies, and so that way they would be reincarnated into their next life. And it's like this demonic place, and they're launching the coffee shop there.
Wow.
And so anyways, these are the people that you're meeting where you're like, oh, you're not doing like village to village one-on-one evangelism. You are business as missionaries, and you are amazing. Yeah,
they're killing it. Wow.
So those are the types of people we rubbed shoulders with this weekend, and it was like, Oh, wow. So we met them, and we met a guy who runs all of Germany's charismatic church planting. All of German,
all of Germany.
he's an apostle. So he is the apostolic leader of Germany.
Is he the one? He's from Mountain View Church.
Well, he's a primary partner with them. Yeah. So him and Fred are
so
super
he's
close.
overseeing a movement in Germany.
Yeah.
Wow.
Literally, the only real, legitimate, growing evangelical presence in the whole country of Germany. And this dude is there, right? So we met with him. Met with a Turkish missionary who's planting. He pastors 4 different churches. He just launched a television program and a social media online evangelism program. And he does reconciliatory work with Turks and Armenians.
Wow.
And he plants churches. And he has a healing ministry. So that's where, so when they go out, they're like, the only way that these Turks are going to believe in Jesus, and the only way that these Armenians are going to even contemplate believing in a Turk, because he's going, you know what I mean? All that, because of the genocide, they have to perform signs and wonders. There's no grid. Yeah. An Armenian will not come to faith in Jesus, because Armenians also have a history of being, they have a Christian context to them, where the Turks, obviously, they're Muslim. But he's the only way that we can see these people come to faith is either Jesus meets them in a dream. But even then, the generational racism is so severe that we have to see healings and miracles, because that's the only thing that really breaks that. It shatters that expectation or that filter.
Wow.
So this guy got up on stage and he's like, so last week, this guy, hardened, Muslim, comes to faith in Jesus. His whole family renounces him. So we spent 72 hours fasting and praying for his father to come to faith, because if the father comes to faith, then it'll trickle down. And then so this is in some village. And then he goes, and 72 hours later, every single primary man in the family, from the grandfather to the father to 3 of the sons, all became Christians and then got baptized.
Wow.
And it was the very first family in that village speaking that language in the history of humanity to come to faith, all because and the patriarch of the family came to faith because of a dream that a foreign man would come to him, and Jesus was telling him in the dream, open your ears, I'm coming to you, or something just absolutely insane. So it's so those are the people we're having dinner with.
Hearing stories like that.
Yeah, and they don't think it's that big of a deal.
No, it's Christianity.
Well, it's also why they're all Pentecostals and charismatics, because if you don't have that grid, how are you going to go reach that people group if they need God to work in a miraculous kingdom infused way, if you don't even believe that God does that anymore?
No, it's a demonstration and proclamation of the kingdom.
Yeah, which honestly, even the non-charismatics that I meet that are missionaries, they're still charismatic.
Yeah,
they have that grid because they have to.
They have to.
So
the
it's really
supernatural worldview in most parts of the world that aren't Western countries is pretty common. You have to have a supernatural
it's literally
worldview,
a part of their,
not just about Christianity or religion or God, but you believe in more than a material world that you can just see, touch, taste, smell. There's got to be
if you're
more.
going to help a Hindu convert to Christianity, you're not just going to plop a Bible in front of them and be like, this is the word of God. They're going to be like, there's so many leaps they have to take to and even understand the words you just said. So you got to do a lot of, you got to tap into what they already kind of know, which is there's more to this world. There's something greater that's making decisions on right and wrong, which is why they even came to the belief in reincarnation to begin with. So now you have to dismantle reincarnation. Well, how do you do that? They have to just meet something greater. It has to be the prophets of all situation, and then you help get them to other things. So it was really cool. It was good to be there. Good to hear a lot of their stories.
Super exciting.
Fun.
God's moving all over the world in beautiful ways, incredible ways.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I can only go based off of what I hear from these people, because they're on the ground, and you're like, wow, there's a lot of really good stuff. I didn't meet anybody in. They didn't have anybody in China though at this. This was not a big conference. This was a banquet. It was specifically for fundraising. So these people were very much strategic high leaders in their movement.
Yeah.
But it was really cool. They had it all broken down into if you wanted to support a country for a day, this is how much it would cost.
Okay.
If you wanted to plant a church this year in Africa, in Kenya, this is what it would cost. This is the price we now know. Like, so you could actually buy days or buy months, buy years, buy missionaries, buy churches, buy building. Like everything was so broken down.
Wow.
It was really cool. And Fred's probably the best fundraiser I've ever met. So he did a really good job. He had a big presentation of like why you sow into the kingdom for eternal reward, and your return on investment when you give to missions is quite literally eternal. Like he's like, you will be dead and you will be long forgotten about in this world, but you will be receiving crowns of glory in the next life because your investment into something that has multiplication implications for it will be there forever.
Wow.
So, which is really good.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. As we become more post-Christian or pre-Christian on the West Side, maybe we'll see more of those tools operative in the church, more
I hope so.
Demonstration and proclamation, because it's a mission field.
I'd like to believe that that's how God works, right?
We had a woman come up on Sunday morning who was so excited because she was healed. She said she had a condition 2 weeks ago and she was in horrible pain. We were talking on the sidewalk, and she said suddenly she felt the presence of God just fill her up, and it overwhelmed her, and she felt it all through her colon. And that's what she was struggling from. Almost instantly, she was healed.
Yeah.
And later she found out that there were 2 people that were praying for her healing at that moment from our church.
Oh, wow.
She was so excited.
That's super cool. Yeah, that stuff is very
So
inspirational. Yeah, I would love to see it happen for the people in our church that are still religiously curious.
Yeah.
That's what I would love to see. More people that are like, I'm not so sure about this Jesus guy, and then just power encounter takes place. And but if you don't ask, you don't see. Yeah. That's another thing too, is like, well, people are still probably really curious why we're just sitting so slowly on our encounter core value. And that's I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Encounter is not Jacob sings longer and sings spontaneous lyrics that don't exist on the screen. That's not encounter. Encounter is like Jesus shows up. And so it's I think it's really important that if we're going to do this, that we actually like wait and ask and listen. And we haven't even done a series on spiritual gifts yet.
No.
Like, we haven't talked about signs and wonders, which that's not like wild, crazy stuff. That's just like what happened in the New Testament can happen today.
It's biblical Christianity.
And there's a reason for it. Yeah. So we need to talk through those things. So,
well, and speaking of that, we have an encounter night.
Yeah, this
coming Sunday,
Yep.
Kingdom Sessions. So if you haven't been prayed for and you want a touch from God, healing in your body, come. It's first come, first serve. We've been having a lot of people. So
Yeah. And if anybody listens to this and isn't a part of the vineyard, like, you can still come.
Yeah,
like, it's open to everybody. Eventually, we'll do like some really cool like West Side encounter nights where it's just like multiple churches together, and it becomes really powerful that way. So, which is fun. I mean, like, hopefully people even within our area who are vineyard churches would like also participate.
That'd be great.
Like this is a part of our history. Like, people have an expectation, if they know anything about the vineyard, that we are a power demonstrated movement. And I think that that's the one thing that the vineyard's always had to offer, is that we are the radical middle movement. And so we don't need to be berserky craze like
It's
we've
not
talked
a 3-hour
about.
worship
No, it's
session.
1 hour. We do it for 1 hour because if we ask the Spirit of God to come and we're humble, He will come. Like,
Maybe we should call it Encounter Hour.
I know, yeah. Come for Encounter Hour. This sounds like actually a show that you should have on like TBN.
I know. I think there used to be a really famous
There's probably Power Hour.
Hour of Power.
Hour of Power. Sow that
wasn't-
seed. I see you. I
Hour of
see you
Power
out there in
wasn't-
that. I see you right now. You need to sow that seed 10 times multiplication.
Don't do that. Hour of Power
How can we
wasn't...
do that, by the way? Can we just embrace that for a sec? Like, you look at a camera and there's some person out there that thinks you're talking directly to them and you ask for money. Is that how fundraising works? I see you.
I remember in like the 90s, there was some televangelist that said, "Put your hand on the screen." And these are old school TVs. So when you did, it shocked you. It was like, whoa.
Totally. That's funny. It's a power hour. Yeah, no.
Hour of Power wasn't. Hour of Power
That sounds
was
like
here.
that was at the Glass
Cathedral. Crystal Cathedral.
Yeah,
that wasn't
yeah.
nutty Power Hour. That was like orchestras, beautiful music.
Yeah, they were legit, right?
Yeah.
Are they still a church?
No. I think
Really?
I think one of the grandsons or the son is in Orange County now, in Irvine. It is.
But it's
But I
still
think
a
that
gathering.
became a Catholic church.
No.
I think they sold the Crystal Cathedral.
Isn't that in San Diego?
No, it's in
South?
Anaheim-ish,
Oh, okay. So it's like Long Beach or
like
Huntington
Orange
Beach.
County.
Orange County. Oh, okay. Huh. I've seen photos.
Beautiful building.
Yeah. I think they had like a big financial crisis at
Something
one point.
like that happened.
Yeah.
But I don't really know any
When you make a
details.
building out of glass, eventually it's gonna. You got to repair it at some point, or something's gonna fall.
Clean the windows.
Oh gosh, full-time salaried employee just to clean windows probably. Yeah. So I think that it's really fun because we only do it for an hour, and we have kingdom sessions which are super encouraging.
Just encouraging.
And if something happens, something happens.
Yep.
Which, hopefully, it does.
Yes.
And if it doesn't, we all go home and we talk.
It's really powerful just to bring your stuff, like in faith. Just people have been coming who are just saying, some people say, I just want to touch. Some people just want encouragement. Some people have chronic illness.
Yep.
Some people are in a relational crisis. Some people need work. Some people are just wanting to know Jesus better.
Yep.
Needing direction. And our prayer team is so good. I love them.
Yeah, we'll pick a theme. We'll see how that goes. I mean, it might just be a random, spontaneous theme night of, which is totally fine. And then, but if it ends up becoming an identity marker for us, which is our encounter nights, and it just becomes really lively and full and just really encouraging, that's just a huge win.
Huge.
And
we're
hopefully we fill people up and
Yeah.
they get released in an
Yes.
amazing way.
There's been more and more freedom and people finding it's not awkward. It's reverent and it's urgent. But there's just a soaking and being in God's presence that's very beautiful and powerful.
Yeah.
And we don't have one next month because it's Easter month.
Good
So
Friday.
We're having Good Friday.
Yep.
I'm super excited about
Which
that.
will be really good too. Yeah, we'll celebrate and sing.
Maybe our building will be almost done.
Good Friday? Yeah, I hope so.
Easter, Good Friday.
I
Not
hope
done,
so.
but maybe close.
Pretty darn close.
It would be amazing.
In most people's perspectives, I think they will believe it's done. We might be like doing like the bathrooms in the cafe or something, but no, it'll be playground may not be in. Yeah, everybody always like I think they hear us talk about the playground and they have no real grid. Like, what's this playground going to look like? And it's like it's just going to be huge.
It's just some wood blocks, right? And like
Yeah,
a little
we've been waiting 3
slide-
months.
slide from IKEA.
Yeah, we got the IKEA. We got that new Costco playground. No, it'll be really good.
It's like a McDonald's play structure on steroids, customized for our church.
Yeah, our colors designed correctly, safe, clean, amazing, super fun. Yeah, it'll make.
Can we go through it?
Yeah, I mean
Wow.
Megan's got first dibs. I guess she'll be the first one to go down. But yep. So I'm trying to think of what we got looking forward to besides that. That's about it. I mean, like there's stuff happening in the building, but a good chunk of we've made progress enough that the sanctuary feels like it's almost done.
Yes, sanctuary bathrooms, gallery is getting. We're getting ready for.
Yep.
Lots of rooms ready for collectives to come
Yep.
in the future.
Yep.
That's going to be a rich season.
At least three rooms for collectives, which will be really great. And we're talking through what those might look like.
Like midweek formational opportunities.
Yeah, like an alpha model, but for formation, food, drinks, community, entertainment. We'll have live music. We might have DJs. Like the way that we'll do the pre-gathering it'll be like a weekly party. Like have fun, get connected, meet people.
bring
We want
friends.
this to be the best thing that you've got on your calendar every single week. Yeah. Oh, I'm looking forward to my Wednesday collective. And then you break out and then you go. The coolest part about this model is that it's not just alpha where it's a whole bunch of people who don't know Jesus or are curious about Jesus. This is like everybody and anybody, packed, fun. And then you go to where your class is. And again, honoring our time, making sure that we're, and you're at a table with people regularly and you're going through we still haven't decided what we're going to do, but it's like, yeah, we'll go through 8 weeks of emotionally healthy spirituality, or 8 weeks of sexual freedom and bondage breaking, or how to hear God, how to read your Bible, how to pray, healthy relationships. Like, we have so many opportunities once we've built the building and it's all finished and the model is really established. Which will take us probably a semester to really get that figured out.
Get it going, and we still focus on encountering Jesus. It's not It's not either or. It's both.
Oh no, this is the next phase.
Yep.
But encounter will still be a very, very, very high primacy. We're not. Again,
we're encountering Jesus and then being formed by.
Well, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. The spiritual formation movement, in my opinion, the emphasis is on the wrong syllable.
Yeah.
This is not come and be formed, come and be formed, come and be formed. It is, no, sit at the feet of Jesus, meet him. You do not become Martha yet. This is Mary. Mary's at the feet. Yeah. And then, so it's like if you put formation first, you get a lot of super religious, intellectual Christians that don't know how to just be and don't know how to let Jesus really make them feel uncomfortable. Like, you get the Pharisees. Like, what I see in the spiritual formation movement a lot is, if encounter is not primary, you end up getting Pharisees that they confront Jesus about the Sabbath. How dare you? You let your disciples grab grains of wheat on the Sabbath. You heal on the Sabbath. And Jesus is like, hey, well, was man made for Sabbath, or was Sabbath made for man? Like, that's like, and I see that a lot. Like, I meet these people that are just utterly obsessed with spiritual formation practices and rule of life and fasting and feast. And it's like, you have relegated your life to so much organizational religion that you think it's a greater sin to do something on the Sabbath than it is to invite your neighbors over and be evangelistic. Like, you're losing why we have formation. We have formation because we've encountered Jesus so deeply. We want to meet him so reverently and so beautifully. And we so desperately want our friend who's a neighbor who's Muslim and doesn't know Jesus. We want them to meet Jesus so bad that we also want to develop our formational identity we want to be more like Jesus.
Be more like him, and that flows into mission.
And then we want to do what Jesus did, do the stuff.
Right.
But yeah, if the emphasis is on the wrong syllable, and you're just feasting and fasting, and you're just Sabbathing and resting and rule of lifing, and all of your life is centered around these cadences, then you have no freedom for a solo. And if you have no freedom for a solo, then you're not going to know what to do when your friend is in this horrible compromising situation and they don't know what to do, and they call you up, and it's your Sabbath, or it's your day with your family, or it's your contemplation and prayer of examine moment, and it's like, if you don't allow for a holy interruption with supernatural needs, then what the heck is the point of your form? Then you're a Pharisee. Like, that's the the kryptonite of the encounter movement is, now you're just love struck, and you're like, you're no earthly good. You have all this eternal hope, but you have no, and that was like the big rag on, like hyper charismaticism in the 70s and 80s. It's like, you're always looking up, you're never looking out. And it's like, so both of them have their wrong. But anyways.
But building on encounter to formation leads really naturally to mission. Because like this mission conference really inspired you this week, and we're eager for that mission season as well.
It'll be great whenever it happens.
But we don't want to get the wrong syllable.
Here's what I always end up discovering: new person comes to church, encounters Jesus, they want more of Jesus. Then they start realizing there's certain areas of their life that are lacking, not because we told them that they're lacking. They're now encountering Jesus, realizing I'm lacking. Yeah. I don't know how to be disciplined in this area. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with my life. I need to hear more the voice of God. Yes. So now the natural next step is then these things. This is why we are not ready to make any decisions on our collectives, because we are still trying to listen. Like, so people, if they fill out the community's interest form, there's a whole bunch of things there that don't exist in the real world, because we're trying to figure out do we need to do a how to pray class?
Yeah.
Are people interested in healing their broken relationships? So we're still figuring out what is the biggest felt need of all of our people. And then we'll go down that journey.
And when we're more formed, then we more responsibly are sent.
Well, yeah, this couple that I just met in India, right? Like, I would love to bring a team with them, but I want to make sure that who I'm bringing, I know that they know how to pray. I know that they know how to be.
And that they've encountered Jesus, or they become the mission field instead of the workers in the field.
Exactly. I want them to be healthy and whole followers of Jesus who are bursting at the seams. Like, they are about to erupt.
Very exciting.
That's why we do it. So it'll be good. And we've only been doing this for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Brad left in September. So you got October, November, December, January, February, March.
6 months.
6 months since Brad, went on his leave. So, like, that's not a long time.
Mm-mm.
In 6 more months, we'll begin our next phase, formation. And we'll see. So it'll be worth it.
Amazing.
All right. That's probably all we got for today. We got a lot of other work to do, which is great.
Yep.
Anything
Sounds
else we
good.
should say in the last couple minutes, or are we good?
No, it's great.
Brianne did a great job. If you guys didn't hear Brianne's sermon,
so
she did
good.
a phenomenal job. So check her sermon out, and stay tuned for some more
And if
stuff.
you guys come to the 9:00 service, come an hour early at 8:00 for prayer. We have a rich time. We had like 25 people yesterday.
It was really good, really encouraging.
Just showing up for prayer.
Yep, praying, getting
Encountering, getting ready to encounter.
That's right.
Actually encountering him even that early in the morning together in
Jesus
community.
can meet you when you're tired.
Yep.
Sweet.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.